Okay, this is where we left off in the last session, and in this session we're going to do the background so we can see how the background will interact with the stem and foot. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is turn off everything that we don't need, which is pretty much the glass, and well, let's just turn off the wine glass itself, and we're going to work in the background area. So turn that on. So all we have right now is just this dark, what I'm calling a wall. Let's go ahead and name that. That's the wall. It's not quite black. It's like a dark brown. And what we're going to do then is, so I have in here is the table ready to set up, and then this would be the light reflections and such. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to create our table. So I'm going to turn on our reference, turn off our background, our color, our wall, and then we'll come up here to the polyline selector, and I'm just going to draw in the table as such, like, okay, and we need a color for our table. I think, you know, I'm going to use like a brown, but maybe kind of like a, you know, either beechwood, pine, something light, but I want some grain in it too, so let's see, we can, that's too orange. Keep playing around here until I get the color I want, maybe something like that. It's kind of light. May go just a bit darker. No, because we're going to have grain in it, so let's not go too dark. Let's try that, see how that looks, and we can adjust it inside here. So come to the color under my table and drop that in. And yeah, that's a bit too on the kind of greenish actually, and so I want to go the other direction. And we'll give you a little bit more color, lighten it up just a touch. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay, now we're going to put in our wood grain, which will be very similar to the same color, except what we'll do is we're going to give it a little bit more orange and kind of darken it a bit. And then I'm going to use something like what we did in another tutorial where we created a grass brush. Well, I have one that is a kind of a hair fur brush. It's kind of perfect for creating wood grains, and I'm going to tilt my canvas just a bit here, okay, and just start drawing. Now that's not dark enough, so I'm going to turn it off and darken that down just a little bit more and take out some of the color. Let's try that, see how that works. Yeah, I think that's going to work. Now I have to let it, because it's drawing a lot of lines, so my graphic card isn't quite keeping up with it. And we'll just keep drawing these lines in here, just like that. Let me pull this down because I want to get it all the way across. Yeah, come on. And I'm going to move this guy out of the way. Always in the way. Get a little gap there, that's no problem. And you're not going to try and necessarily go for really straight lines. What we're trying to do is just create what could look like wood grain, and you can put in some, you know, knots here and there. Okay, so let's go ahead and straighten that up and bring it back into the center. I already have it set for a soft light. So with color normal, this would be a soft light. Now we're going to add in some highlights that would be from the windows we're going to draw in the back. And we'll bring that up, not quite white. And then use my blending brush, and I'm just going to, that's not the blending brush. There we go. There we go. Just kind of like that. And then one right back here. Okay, now let's turn off our reference because it's just kind of in the way. And now what I'm going to do is I need to start blurring out some stuff. So I'm going to hide those so that I just have this. And I'm going to use my blending brush just to kind of blur these edges here. And let's do it with, so that I'm not necessarily there. I went to an invisible ink because it was adding color. I don't want it to add color. I just want it to blur the existing color. Because this is kind of in the distance, so I need it to be a camera blur. It's as if the camera is focused on the wine glass. Okay, now we'll add our wood grain, and as you can see, it is kind of dark at the ends, and that's simply because it has nothing to go soft light against, so it's kind of darkening it. Okay, what I need to do is now I'm going to grab the blur brush and just kind of blur this just gently touching the, and I want it to kind of blur as it goes to the background, but stay sharp when it comes up closer to us. Okay, and then we can turn on the highlights, and we're going to have to blur the edges on that one too, so it's still with the paint and apply brush. I'll just kind of blur those edges like that. And then if we turn on the background, you can see now what it looks like. And this is okay if it does this, because this is kind of like a blur, or a kind of a bounce reflection there, I guess you'd call it. See, just kind of a glow that would kind of show up in the lens. Okay, and if I turn on the wine glass, you can see, this is going to, a lot of it's going to get covered. And we're not done. We can adjust that as much as we want. If it's too much, just by hitting the invisible ink and just kind of come down like that, and we can soften that up. And it's okay if it's rough, because that's natural for a blur process. Okay, now come here, and we're going to put in some windows. So I want to go all the way white, and I want a window right here. So I'm going to use my blending brush because I want this window to kind of be blurred, and I don't want it to do that. And it doesn't have to be straight, but it does have to look like it's, at least an attempt to be straight. Okay, now just make it big and just kind of fill this in. And, who knows, it might be curtains, or maybe it's got some blinds or something on it. We don't know. We just know that from this distance it's blurred, and so we know that so that's going to be this reflection here. And then we'll put in some small windows like this. And as it gets further and further away, it gets blurrier and blurrier. Okay, and we can kind of clean that up a bit and clean this up a bit here. So I want that to kind of go a little bit there. Okay, I think that would work, and we'll just now kind of okay. And if we put our wine glass back in, you know, you can start to see. And I think I just want it to be blurred just a little bit more. And then let's just give it some really bright hot spots somewhere inside of it. Okay, and now when we put our glass in, we can see that, you know, this is where the stem and the foot will go, and they should fit right in there perfectly, and we can see this table through the glass. So now we know, you know, just about how much you need it to be. How much how much we're going to have the glow of the glass go is what I'm trying to say. And because, well, the glass it's going to kind of shine through the glass, and so we're going to be adjusting the color of the glass so that it looks natural instead of too brown or too whatever, because it's going to pick up this color here. And so we're going to kind of fade all that out. But what I want to do before we end this is I need to blur this a little bit more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up to Filter, Blur, and I'm going to use a Gaussian blur. And we don't need to blur it much because we've already blurred this back. I just want it so it feels like when we get right up in here, it's sharp again, and I think that's about it right there. I think that's it for this one. We have our background, and now we can do the stem, and I think we can call it done for now. We'll see you in the next one.